Hi everyone, yeah, John Kerr. I live down near Honeypot on Whitman Street. I see some faces that I know from around town as well, so welcome and thank you for attending. Who here has lost their keys in the last week or so, or a wallet? Who here has bumped into somebody that they haven't seen for a long time and they just can't remember the name? Anyone? How does it make you feel?
Me?
Yeah.
Does not feel good.
I feel embarrassed.
Yeah, a little bit of embarrassment. Think about when you're a little bit older as well and what it starts to resonate in your head about. Lots and lots and lots of young people in their 20s, teens, we all know everybody forgets stuff. It isn't by itself an indicator or a predeterminant of Alzheimer's or any form of dementia. To set the scene, I am not a medical professional, I'm not a doctor, I don't have any particular expertise, but I do have a long time of experience of working with my wife who passed last year from Alzheimer's. And I've learned a lot of the tricks about how to work with people with Alzheimer's. My girlfriend is here as well, and her mom, Jen Dedrick, has Alzheimer's as well. So we will be available at the end to answer any other questions. I'll put my email up here as well for any other questions, and of course it will be recorded here as well. So what I did want to leave here as a fundamental message is that Alzheimer's is a super scary word. Dementia in general is a super scary word, and they have so many negative connotations as well. I mean, how many times have you heard demented used as a kind of slur? It's not funny, really, but we've all been guilty of it, right? I want to put a different spin on this. I want to bring an idea that there is hope, and there's hope in all kinds of dimensions, and we'll go through that a little bit today. Two parts to it. First part, just setting the scene about what it is, what some of the facts are, and how we know about it. And then the second part down at the bottom there is about, it's the what to do about it. What you can do if you fear a diagnosis, if you have any hints that you feel that you may be going in that direction. And the other, yourself at the bottom, is if you're a caregiver as well. That's the unspoken constituent in this room, caregiving as well. Quick question?
What is the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia?
Good question. Alzheimer's is one of many forms of dementia. Parkinson's is a form of dementia. It's more in the family of neurodegenerative diseases. Multiple sclerosis is another. Frontotemporal dementia is one. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Likewise, Lewy body disease, and so on. Alzheimer's is maybe the one that is up there in big letters right now. And we hear about it a lot more than we ever did for lots of reasons. So I'm going to go over a few hints and tips about how to take care of yourself if you fear some loss of cognitive ability. And also if you're a caregiver, or maybe a caregiver one day, some of the things that you can work with. And also, importantly, how to communicate with somebody who may be starting to slip a little bit because you're dealing with a different person at that point. Very, very briefly, Alzheimer's is the function of two horrible kinds of problems within the brain. Again, I'm not a brain surgeon, I'm not a doctor, not a medical professional. This is just from what I've read, and you can all read it just as well. But amyloid plaques and tau tangles are different kinds of proteins, but they go wrong. And amyloid plaques in particular start to tangle up and start to cut off communication between neurons and ultimately lead to cell death. Tau tangles are actually inside some of the neuron pathways, and they do some other destructive damage. If you were to look at it crudely in this kind of illustration, the Alzheimer's brain is smaller. It's atrophied. It is damaged. And there are very standard sequences that the damage goes through as well. But sufficient to say, the way I think about it is it's a little bit like pipes in plumbing. They can get furred up inside. And I think that's my simple way of understanding what is starting to happen. It is, as I mentioned, it's a vicious neurodegenerative disease, and it robs you of cognitive capabilities and ultimately of executive function. That means the ability to handle the activities of daily living, dressing, feeding yourself, grooming, toileting, et cetera, et cetera. Let me tell you, though, what it's not. Yes, it's not cured. It cannot be cured yet, not yet. It's not contagious. It's not an automatic death sentence. And it's not something that is well understood still, even though there's a ton of research that's been going into it in the last 20, 30 years. It still is not fully understood. That's changing fast, though. Just hold the question 1 second. I think what is critical for both those suffering from it and for caregivers is that the medical profession is still low in the learning curve. Like you go to your GP, your primary care physician, they sometimes are not a whole lot wiser than you are about it, and that is a problem. And there also aren't the resources in society to deal with this. Everything from the numbers of geriatricians, gerontologists, home health aides, and on and on and on. So it's a systemic problem. You had a question?
Is it still considered to be hereditary?
Hereditary is only one part of it. We'll talk about that a little bit later, and happy to answer more of that. Who's going to answer the rest of this question? You've seen one case of Alzheimer's. You've seen?
One case of Alzheimer's. You've seen one case of Alzheimer's.
Thank you. You're paying attention? Yeah. Alzheimer's can go very, very, very quickly. It can also go really, really slowly. In my wife's case, it was fast and furious. But she went into a care place in Sudbury where there were plenty of people where they'd been there for 8, 9 years, and they're probably going to be there for another 8, 9, 10 years. The progression was very, very slow. On the other hand, it can manifest in people who are angry and upset and fighting it, which is the case in my wife's situation. Conversely, plenty of people are just happy as the day is long, and they're repeating the same stories and doing the same funny routines by the minute, it seems like. And that's okay. There is no one form of Alzheimer's. Or there's no one story behind Alzheimer's. It is well known now that there are 6 stages, and this is a little bit of an eye chart. By the way, anybody who wants this slide deck can get it from me directly if you give me your email address or take down my email at the end. But I think the point I want to make here is that stage 0, it can start decades before you even know it. And that isn't to scare everybody, it's just to say this is a fact, whether you like it or not. And there is in the stage 0, it's asymptomatic. There isn't memory loss, or there isn't apparent memory loss. There isn't the endless repeating of stories. There isn't the loss of executive function. It is beginning. Those problems, the amyloid plaques, tau tangles, and other problems may be beginning. You don't actually notice, most people don't notice until you're getting down to stage 3. And that could be 15 years, it could be 20 years. And then you start to have, other people start to notice. And people themselves may notice. Quick question?
At what stage can they detect it medically?
Hard to say. It depends on and we'll get to a little bit of the medical, the detection of it. Suffice it to say that the detection methods are improving astronomically fast. It used to be 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, the only way to determine if anybody definitively had or had Alzheimer's was autopsy. Now you have PET scans. Now you have blood biomarkers. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Point is, there's hope. There are good stories. There's good news here. By the time you get into stage 4, there's a term, MCI, mild cognitive impairment. And for most people, that's an understanding that the wheels are starting to come off. People are starting to notice. Maybe somebody's wearing the same clothes for a week on end. Maybe they're not showering as they did. Maybe they've forgotten how to do a recipe, work off a recipe they knew intimately. Maybe they get lost. Things start to happen. And then the last stages are where it really tends to be, okay, we're into a stage where it's home or some other form of care. To deliver some of the bad news first, the statistics speak for themselves. It is a killer disease. As I mentioned, there is no cure. It just depends how you get there, how quickly. It is something that affects African American community disproportionately more. It does affect women more. This is something that I find particularly chilling. It kills more people than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. This is only the beginning. By 2015, this will be up to $1 trillion. So this is by way of explaining or adding to my point that this is absolutely a systemic problem. It's not just a problem for the patient, the sufferer, not just a problem for the caregivers, the family, not just a problem for the professional caregivers around them. It's a problem for society. It's a problem for economies. It's a problem for the nation and internationally. So we'll talk a little bit about some of what's happening more broadly as well, that are all reflections of positives here as well. Again, scary, but manageable. Flip it the other way. If you're in this first age category, 95% of people haven't got it. 75 to 84, 77%, or 80, whatever the number is, 87% don't have it, which is a more positive way than looking at those awful stats. I make the point, this is very specifically just about dementia. You probably know all these faces. Shout out who that is. Bruce Willis. Anybody know what Bruce sadly is suffering from? Frontotemporal, yeah. He started with aphasia, which is basically forgetting words, phrases, expressions, primarily verbal. And he's now fairly advanced. It's not Alzheimer's, it's frontotemporal. This guy? Anybody? Robin Williams? Lewy body disease. And his was an epic struggle, but he ultimately succumbed to that. Not Alzheimer's, again, but a form of dementia that's crippling. Wendy Williams, the talk show host, Alzheimer's. Chris Hemsworth, the Thor and Marvel comics actor, and lots of other stuff as well. He got a scare a couple of years ago because he discovered through a genetic analysis that both sides of his family tree were loaded for Alzheimer's specifically, and it scared the bejesus out of him. But he's young. He's doing something about it. Maybe he has it now, he doesn't know, but he is in a position to do something about it. As, by the way, are people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and onward.
Well,
So
what can you do about it?
we'll talk about that, yeah. Last thing, who's this guy from back in the day?
David Hyde Pierce.
David Hyde Pierce. David Hyde Pierce doesn't, to the best of my knowledge or research, have any issues with dementia, but he is a fierce proponent for Alzheimer's research. I'm sure he's a major benefactor. He's an amazing spokesperson. So celebrities are out there, and anybody give me a sense of why I put this in here? Weirdly, this is a good thing that these people have got it? Perfect, yeah. It is increasing awareness, it's reducing the stigma, it's making it realizable that ordinary people and people on the screen have got it. It's taking away this sense of shame and embarrassment. It's all weirdly a good thing. So let's get into the good news. And this falls into three parts. This is generally the big picture of what's happening in society overall, societies overall, internationally. 10, 15 years ago, certainly, and to some extent now, there was this idea that it's untreatable. Can't do anything about it. Oh my God, I'm condemned, I'm doomed. Not the case anymore. This is critical, I think. Heart health has been something that we've all been super aware of for at least probably 25, 30 years, right? There are associations, there's information, there's funding, federal and state and private, to help with heart health. We go to the doctor, everything is listened to, it's on the doctor's radar. Brain health is going the same way, and that is to the benefit of all of us, and our children, and our children's children. This is how the Alzheimer's Association refer to it now. It's one of their taglines. The first survivor of Alzheimer's is out there. And I think I take enormous comfort from that. That's a very, very positive statement. They're saying, we will get there. We're moving in that direction very, very fast. So the science bit of it, there is enormously fast progress in detection and diagnosis. There's all kinds of digital tools being brought to bear. We're not too far away from when we'll be able to go to the doctor, and you know the little blood prick that you get to test for everything from cholesterol to, in my case, prostate, and on and on. It will also be able to tell whether you're starting to have some cognitive, some physical changes in your brain, whether it's they're detecting amyloid plaques, I'm not sure. But the key thing is the blood test will tell it. That is incredible because it's going to be so easy. It's not quite there yet. It's still being trialed, but it's been proven with peer reviews, with scientific research, and it now needs to be basically released to the general medical profession so that they can be educated in how to use it, what benefits it brings to them as medical practitioners, what benefits, crucially, it brings to their patients. And I would say probably anyway within 5 years, it'll be out there in the population. We'll all be able to benefit from it. We talked a little bit about awareness being up and stigma being down. That is tremendous from a funding point of view. You know, if you're in federal government, state government, you're having all kinds of people petition you for funds for this research, for that campaign, the other. Jen and I we have volunteered with the Alzheimer's Association chapter in New England. They do a phenomenal job of lobbying, and they're lobbying government for everything from increased funding for home health aides and better rates of pay for them, for dissemination of information, for training in the medical profession, and core research at many of the Boston area's medical facilities to improve and accelerate the science. So I think we're moving rapidly away from the time when, oh, she's demented or he's got Alzheimer's is a kind of a slur, which is all very, very positive. And then, crucially too, disease-modifying treatments are appearing. So right now, there are 2 drugs that are on the market. They've been approved by the FDA, called lecanemab and donanemab. I can't remember how to pronounce it. But they're out there, and they attack or free up the amyloid plaques. They begin to deal with those. Flip side, negative, they work quite well for people with mild cognitive impairment. In my wife's case, we were way beyond that point where it would have been of any use. They also come with some side effects. But if you have, if you're really low on the scale, you're way up in those stages, it's great that those drugs are there. Now here's the other thing. Success breeds success. And that's been proven in many, many medical fields and scientific fields, that once there are proven methods of determining that drugs and drug pathways and drug interventions work, then more money goes into that research. There's more encouragement to do more in this particular field or other. There's lots of feedback coming back to say it works or doesn't work, leading to another direction potentially. So lecanemab and the other one that I can't pronounce are only the beginning. There are all manner of other drugs that are in there tackling tau tangles, tackling amyloid plaques in other ways. And next week, I'm going to be on a webinar that's put on by the Alzheimer's Association. And it's basically their presentation of the international forum that there was in Philadelphia, I think, about a month ago. That was everybody who's associated with Alzheimer's research around the world coming together to share research details, to do a little bit of peer review in each other, to exchange information about how to deal with this systemic problem. And so the good news here is within 4, 5, 6, 7 years, there'll be many more drugs on the market to intervene, to help to at least slow things down. There is within sight of the scientists in the labs ideas of what kind of drugs might actually put the handbrake on completely. Right now, lecanemab and the other one simply slow it down. The car's going down a hill at 30 miles an hour. They ensure that it's going downhill only at 15 miles an hour. Now, that's a win. Does it make you feel better if you are living 3 or 4 years longer? For some people, yes. Some people, maybe not. But the idea of actually putting the handbrake on completely and stopping it is amazing. Then there are other medications that are being tested, explored, trialed, maybe not trialed yet, but that will actually begin to reverse it. And that means maybe removing the amyloid plaques, repairing the neuron connections, undoing the tau tangles, and on and on. So that's in our future. Not here yet, but science is heading in that direction. There are enormous amounts of funding going into this because it's recognized, and politicians are listening to the economic impact as well. They're hearing about it from their constituents as well. And many of you have probably read stories where caregivers, family members have given up everything. They've given up a career, they've given up a job just to be full-time caregivers. Or they're having to hire home health aides at considerable expense. By the way, none of this covered by Medicare, or I don't think even Medicaid. So these are issues that politicians are listening to and want to help do something about, too, of course. The last part is focusing not just on society in its most cosmic sense, but how individuals are responding. Again, these are stats provided by the Alzheimer's Association, but Americans and people around the world are ready for this. They're ready to receive, they're ready to participate in clinical trials, if need be, that are going to advance the science further. They really are confident that treatments are going to emerge, that detection methods are going to improve, and that means of preventing the disease will be available soon. So I think it all adds up to a very receptive population and the idea that we are poised to see many more improvements before we read more horror stories. So let's flip a little bit to what to do about it. Again, I'm going to re-emphasize, I'm not a social worker, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm just working from my own experience and from what I've read. If you ever have any concern that there may be some slippage, First of all, just acknowledge it. Let the feelings wash over you. There's probably fear, there's probably resentment, there's probably anger, there's probably all kinds of emotions that flood through you, and that's okay. They're all good. They all are valid. We talked a little bit about feeling no shame. Critical also, just get a diagnosis. And I say that glibly, as if it sounds easy. It's not. It took, for my wife and me, it took about 9 months, because we had to rule out lots of other stuff as well. We went through a battery of cognitive tests that determined with pretty good certainty what was happening. I mean, it was the lowest decile this, it was the lowest quartile that, and it was like writing was on wall. But there wasn't a formal diagnosis from a certified neurologist. So, medical professionals have to go through cancer. Is it this? Is it that? Are there physical issues that are causing this as well? Eventually, then you've got to go look for a neurologist, and that just takes a while. And that is one of the issues that is a systemic issue. There aren't enough neurologists in the world either right now. So, funding, politicians, medical profession, and on can collectively, I think, gear up to help redress that problem. So, seek a diagnosis if there are issues. Even just ask your doctor. There are lots of small, simple tests that doctors can do. They don't always do them, but again, these are starting to move into the mainstream. There's one called the Montreal test, isn't there? And there's another one. They're a little north of just reading an analog clock or counting backwards from 100. They're a little more sophisticated than that, but they unearth some concerns, and they can lead to a referral to the specialist as well, even if that person isn't a neurologist. My point here, take action. Don't just sit there and accept it. Just don't wallow in your feelings. Acknowledge them, don't wallow in them. Take some action and figure out, okay, who can help me? How can the medical profession help me? How can my GP help me, even if he or she is not expert in all things dementia-related? Crucially, too, join a support group. Alzheimer's Association has chapters. There are groups all here right now. Stow Center on Aging is a powerful resource for everybody here. Many, many other resources that are too numerous to name out there. And some Google searching and asking around will unearth them pretty quickly. Join them. Be with other people who express the same concerns, who may have the same fears. Learn tricks from them for coping. Learn what they have learned. Share what you have learned with them. And then make a plan. Because all of this has legal implications, financial implications, family implications, all manner of implications. So get ahead of this. I always felt with my wife that we were always maybe 3, 4, or 5 months behind the curve. There was something else happening. I was just like, oh my God, if only we'd done this then, that would have helped us get ahead. And one example of that in my case was getting a care management consultancy. And this is somebody who helped me, because I wouldn't even have found the care place that was amazing for my wife if it hadn't been for them. I wouldn't have found services like Seniors Helping Seniors to help give me some relief as a caregiver, things like that. So care management consulting is one source of support. Anyway, my point is make a plan, figure it out. Doesn't mean it has to be detailed blow by blow, week by week, month by month, but at least have a plan. And one thing I didn't mention here, bring family into this, or bring friends into this discussion, because they're going to bear some of this load as well. And it's not, you should never be bearing this alone. Build your team. And then it's not that dissimilar if you're caring for somebody, or you may soon be caring for somebody. Again, realize you're not alone. Alzheimer's Association and lots of other groups that deal with different forms of dementia do have support groups specifically for caregivers. If you look at the Alzheimer's website, half of what is on there is for caregivers. And that is one of the little things that's kind of not talked about. The focus is on sufferers, on potential patients. It's not on caregivers, or it hasn't been. But what has been said, and the Alzheimer's Association will talk about this and just say, for every diagnosis of Alzheimer's, it's not just affecting one person, it's affecting multiple people, caregivers among them. Again, not dissimilar from if you are a potential patient, build that circle of support in your family, in your friends. And everybody's got their own ways of dealing with this. There may be family members who can deal with it easily, others who can't. Start bringing them in, because they will be sources of enormous strength and succor for you, as they were for me. I wouldn't have been able to make it through had it not been for my wife's family and my own family. And then, no big surprise, tap into the abundant resources, which we'll put up some of on the screen in a minute. And vitally, to realize that your health matters to their health. When I was early in this whole journey, I remember tapping into the Alzheimer's Association resources online, and they have chat forums. One agonizing note that I read from somebody who'd written in, the woman was maybe, let's say 83, her husband was 85, she was dealing with him alone, he was well down through the stages of Alzheimer's, he'd turned into a different person, he was beating on her, he was angry all the time, she was alone, and there was this desperate cry for help from her, reaching out to the Alzheimer's Association forum at large, just saying, help me. And all kinds of people poured in and just were offering advice, which was basically like this. But she was probably going to have an issue herself if she hadn't already. And that happens all the time. So get that support. It's not a negative selfishness. It's a healthy selfishness to look after yourself so that you can be a better carer for them. Council of Aging folks asked me to dive into this a little bit, and you are dealing, as I said earlier, with a different person. It is a situation where the person you knew is in a very, very different place. You have to lean in. You have to give them your full attention. You can't be on your phone. You can't be checking out something else. You need to be eye to eye with them so that they feel attended to, because they, at some certain level, are aware. They may not express it, they may not say it, but they feel it. And you cannot rob them of their dignity or their personality. I mean, an example was when my wife and I went to the doctor. The doctor looked at me and talked to me. He didn't talk to her. It's awful. Terrible. And I tried to deflect him back to her, but then she wasn't really necessarily able to answer. But he was not making eye contact with her. He was not being an active listener. Also, don't try to deny their reality. Don't confront them about what's right and wrong. If they say the sky is green, you just say, oh, it's a gorgeous color of green. Is it jade or is it emerald? What color is that? Classic one is somebody says, as Jen's mom has said, oh, I saw my parents last week. Parents have been dead for decades. You just say, oh, what was Grandma wearing? Did she have that dress on from last time? You deal with it that way. It's a skill. It's not natural. It took me a long time to stop just being angry and stop rebutting these things that were nonsensical. And then I learned. You just learn by doing. So don't learn the hard way. Learn to do it this way. Removing distractions and creating distractions are crucially important. People with dementia, and particularly Alzheimer's, get into spirals. So they just get focused on what they're focused on. Sometimes you've got to break that and just say, oh, look, there's the red-tailed hawk. It's back again in that tree. Or, hey, there's a hummingbird over there. Or, oh, look at this picture that shows this really interesting celebrity news or whatever. By the same token, they can be so easily overstimulated. So you want to try to remove distractions as much as possible. For my wife, it helped in her care place to have the door closed because she could not stop going out to the main room to see what everybody else was doing. And you couldn't hold her focus. You didn't necessarily need to hold her focus, but if you were a medical professional trying to administer her meds, you didn't want her leaving the room and going to see what everybody else was doing. You wanted her sitting there taking her meds on time. It sounds patronizing, but you do have to use shorter sentences and smaller words as if you are speaking to a child, because you are beginning to get that regression, and that is regrettably the way it's happening. Yes, no questions as well. It's not, what would you like for dinner tonight? It's, would you like spaghetti or would you like lasagna? Simple choice. You want this dress, you're going to wear this blouse, you're going to wear that blouse. Simple, simple, simple. So the last one and writing it down is important. Where Jen's mother is, do you want to just mention very quickly what you did just the other day to help your mom remember?
I put up on her board, I write the date, what day it is, it's August 15th, and I also write you're an act in Mass. And so that she'll know, because she just moved to a new place, and she'll keep asking. And I have pictures up that are familiar to her, but I also wrote, because my daughter is coming on Sunday, who is like her most favorite person in the world, her granddaughter. And so I wrote, Rosie is visiting on Sunday. And then, so she'll just keep seeing that. So things like that, just to keep it. And her roommate speaks only Mandarin. And so her son has put up all of these statements all over the place about her. There's a whole statement about her. There are phrases that are written in Mandarin, and then he wrote the English translation so that the health providers can point to that phrase, and the mother can read the Mandarin or the Chinese characters and the healthcare. So that kind of thing. So writing down, it's very. Yeah,
they're just little anchors, little clues, little ways to give them some basis to get through the day, basically. And lastly, touch. It's fundamental to all of us as mammals, and it's absolutely crucial for people with dementia. They cherish it. And it doesn't mean a smothering hug. It doesn't mean a pat on the arm, touch of a hand, touch on the knee. Make them feel connected. Make them feel that you are part of their world and that they are part of yours. Just to finish with, then, this is a tiny, tiny, tiny short list of what's available. I've raved about the Alzheimer's Association, and I will continue to rave about it because they have resources that are about 5 miles deep and 10 miles wide, is how I describe it, and it's a phenomenal resource. National Institute on Aging in the government is also really good. Seniors Helping Seniors is a national organization that helps give caregivers a break. And it's folks, I'm sure there may well be folks here who are those kinds of helpers for other people who are suffering. And there's an Aging Life Care Association as well that many of the care management consultancies belong to. There are day centers as well. Before my wife went into permanent care, we were looking at daycare, where you basically go for a day of activities. And it's all the activities you could imagine, arts and crafts, quizzes, music, dance, animals coming in, all that sort of stuff. And then they come back at night. And I want to point, if you want to write this down, or I can, if you want to give me your contact information at the end, care.john@karchapar, KARCHAPAR.com is my email address. And I'm happy to share this presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to find other resources as well for anyone, because I believe this is one of the best ways in which I can carry forward the legacy of my wife and to help improve things for everybody in future. So, thank you. Okay. Show's over.